Okay, so today we are going to be doing a trial run of a workshop, kind of similar to how we would hope to run things in a term. So we have a lot of other workshops planned, but this is essentially just to kind of test out the format and see what works and what doesn't work. So think about, I guess, what parts of this you like and what parts you don't like, and then if you are interested, you can either email me or send me a Slack message, or just stay for a few minutes after the workshop is done, and we can talk about it for a little bit. Oops, sorry, Dallas. So, sorry, Dallas has our notes. I'm trying to look at those. Yeah, so today we are going to talk about a few related topics. We're going to talk a bit about foot action in Latin and rhythm, what it means to engage your ankles, and how that can help with your weight transfer from foot to foot. So one other thing that we're going to do today that we haven't done in previous workshops is we're going to start with an actual little warm-up. So this is something that a couple of people have requested. So we made a little warm-up routine that you can do for Latin and rhythm specifically. So this is going to be good for activating your legs and activating your core in particular. So this is the time where you all should stand up, and we're going to go ahead and get started soon. Okay, can you scroll down a little bit?
Just as a note for everyone, once we get past the warm-up, we're going to be, in general, providing feedback just to everyone more generally. If you would prefer more focused individual feedback, let us know, and we'll try our best to accommodate that.
Yes. Okay, so this is just one of many different warm-up routines you can do. We did release a video on warm-up routines during D-term, so if you want some ideas on kind of how to structure these and how to potentially create your own, go ahead and look at that. But the general idea is that you want to start by just kind of loosely mobilizing your joints, getting everything loose, especially if you've been sitting a lot, like I have been today. Then you want to start with activating some of the big core muscle groups, and then do a little bit of dynamic stretching. So in general, you don't really want to do static stretching before working out. That's something that's best for afterwards in most cases.
Mm-hmm. In case you're not sure of the exact difference between those, static stretches is what most people think of when you think stretches, where it's sort of like bending down and then just holding a position for a while, whereas dynamic stretches involves that stretching action, but not necessarily holding it for a long time, but incorporating a lot more motion into those stretches.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to scroll this down a bit. All right, so we're just going to start off by doing a little bit of what I like to call joint mobilization. So we're going to start by just rolling your head in a circle. You can pick whatever direction you want. This is just to kind of loosen up your neck a little bit. And especially for me, my neck gets really stiff if I've been like working in the lab all day or just sitting on my computer. So this feels really nice. I'll do probably about 10 of these and then go ahead and switch direction. Heard my neck crack. Normally I would also play some music right now, but it doesn't really work that well over Zoom, so you'll just get to listen to us talking. All right, that's about 10. So then we're gonna start by rolling our shoulders too. So we're gonna start by rolling them forward, up, and back. So doing a nice shoulder shrug, and then really pulling them down at the end. So again, we'll do about 10 of these, this direction. And I wasn't counting, but that seems like maybe about 10. And then we're gonna switch directions. So now going back, up, and forward. All right, so now if you have someone next to you, make sure that you distance yourself a little bit, because now we're going to do some arm rolls. So essentially the same thing as the shoulder rolls, but now using your arms.
Why are you wearing a jumpsuit?
Why not? I thought it'd be funny.
Okay, not here, Josh. Okay, it's fine. So I'll do again, about like 10 of these, go backwards, and then we'll switch and do them forwards. All right, switch. Really bad at counting. Realizing. All right, then we'll continue kind of warming up the upper body and now starting to move down into the lower body a little bit. So now we're going to do these torso twists. So we're going to do a stand with your feet about hip width apart or slightly more. And then you're going to twist to one side. So I'm going to twist to my left side and then throw my right arm in that direction. So you should feel a really nice twist in your spine here. And then you'll come back to center and then twist the other direction. Yeah, that feels good. And then you can speed that up a little bit. So if you're doing it correctly, you should reach at about a 90-degree angle from where your hips are facing. So if my hips are facing the camera, my arm will be pointing to my left or to my right. Some of these. Making sure that you really rotate around your spine, that you're not just moving your arm in that direction, but that you're really twisting your shoulders too. This is a really great exercise for smooth and standard as well for doing CBM for that reason. Okay, what else? Okay, and then I'm going to show you something that I like to do for Latin and rhythm. I don't really do it a lot because I don't compete Latin and rhythm anymore, but you can do what are called torso isolations. So for this, you're essentially going to kind of stand in the same position with your feet about hip width apart. And without moving your hips, you're going to just send your torso to one side. So here I'm sending it to my left by compressing down my right side a little bit. And making sure to keep your shoulders level. Then you're going to do it to the other side. So again, trying to keep your hips in one spot and just moving your upper body. So this is really good to get your core and back involved, especially for Latin. All right, so we'll do some of those. And then we'll also do this going forward and backwards. So I'll do this to the side so you can see me a little bit better. But now you're just gonna send your torso forward. So now it's gonna be a little bit more like you're arching your back. And then you're gonna kind of round your back forward like this. Ending in a slightly hunched position with your core really engaged. And then we'll do that a couple more times. Okay. And then what you can also do, we're not going to do these necessarily right now, but another way that you can kind of combine these is doing essentially like 4 points of a square. So you can go to one side, then forward, then to the other side, and then back, and then eventually kind of turn this into more of a circle action. So this one definitely requires a lot of practice, and I'm actually like really bad at doing it this direction. I can kind of only do it one way, but that's something that you can work toward as well. That's really good for activating muscles that you'll need for Latin and rhythm specifically. Okay, what time is it? Just about 5 minutes. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna move into kind of activating our legs a little bit more. Oh, thanks, Dels. Okay, so we're gonna start by doing essentially a squat into just like a forward fold. So starting with your legs, now definitely above hip width apart. You're going to bend down into this like squat plie position, rise up, and then just bend forward. You can keep a slight bend in your knees.
Yeah, you can bend your knees as much as you need to get more of a full motion of your body.
Yep. So you'll just only hold this for like a second and then roll back up. And then we'll do this a few more times. So bend up and then fold and then roll it up. Just maybe 2 more times. Bend up, fold, and then roll up. And 1 more. Fold. Okay. Now I just have a few more things. Yeah, you should grab a timer. Or, oh, you have the clock as well. I guess that works.
I got a timer.
All right, so now we'll just do 30 seconds. All right, so now we're gonna do a couple more things for your legs and core. So these will be a little bit more intense. There's 3 exercises we're gonna do. We're gonna do them for only 30 seconds each. You can do them up to 60 seconds, but we're just gonna start on the low end for now. So the first one, I'm just gonna demonstrate it and then Dallas will time us doing it. So we're gonna get into the same wide-legged squat or sumo squat position here. And then at the end, you're going to rise up and then do a calf raise. So you're gonna go onto your toes like this. Then you're gonna lower your heels and then do it again. So squat and then calf raise. All right, ready?
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna go. So follow me, squat, calf raise, squat, calf raise. You can also do just like normal squats if this is too hard. Or if you want more difficulty, you can even try jumping instead of doing a calf raise. We'll just stick with this for now. But there's lots of ways to kind of modify it to a difficulty level that you think is appropriate. That's time? Okay, cool. All right, so now we're just gonna do some quick calf raises. So for this, I'm gonna go to the side so you can see me a little bit easier. You're gonna stand with your feet pretty much together. And then you're just going to rise up onto your toes, lower until your heels are like just above the ground, and do this kind of pulsing action. So you should feel your calves really engaging, and your heels shouldn't hit the ground the whole time if you're doing it right. All right, so can you time us?
Yep.
All right, and go. Oh man, I haven't done that in a long time. Ow. That's seriously not been 30 seconds yet.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, done.
Right, my calves are very activated. Okay, and then the last one that we'll do, most of you have probably done some type of plank position. So this is a very, very good core exercise. So, am I like in frame? Okay, so you can see me all right. So the basic version of a plank, you're just going to get onto either your hands or your elbows into this kind of push-up position here. So you can do it like this, or you can do it like this. Or the harder version of this exercise, you can get into this plank position, and then we're going to alternate raising one arm and one leg. So I'm going to raise my left arm and my right leg, come back down, and then switch. This one is much harder. So if you don't feel like trying it now, that's fine.
30 seconds again?
Yeah, 30 seconds. All right, we're going to go. Pick whatever one you want. Did you start it?
Yep, we're going.
We going.
And time.
Okay. And then while we're on the floor, the last thing we're going to do is just a short little dynamic stretch. So what you're going to do here is you're going to get into this lunge position. Put it back up a bit.
So one of your knees is going to be on the ground. In this case, it's going to have our left knee touching the ground.
Yep, so you're going to start in this position. You should feel a really nice stretch in your the hip flexor of your back leg. So hold this for just a few seconds, and then you're going to straighten your front leg and roll back, flexing your foot really hard. You should get a really nice hamstring stretch in that leg.
Yeah. When you straighten your leg here, you don't need to extend it all the way. In fact, you get a best stretch if you leave your front leg slightly bent.
Yes. All right, so we're just going to do that a couple of times. Now again, here you can kind of sub in whatever stretches you want. This one I really like because my hamstrings tend to get really tight since I had a back injury a year ago. Then we're going to switch and do it on the other leg. All right, just like 4 or 5 times. That's good. Just like 1 more time. Okay, so that is the warm-up. So I'm definitely not going to go through this at all workshops that we do in the future, but since several people did ask, I thought it would be good to give you guys an example that you can work through instead of just having the theoretical content from the video.
Yeah, and granted, it took us a bit longer just to go through everything, but usually an average warm-up for us would usually take around 5 minutes just doing these kind of more back-to-back.
Yeah, it definitely took a little bit longer just to kind of explain everything, but it normally goes pretty quickly. All right, any questions on any of that before we get into kind of the meat of the workshop? Michael is scooting.
One final note that I have is, I know earlier we touched on how you tend to prefer dynamic stretches over static stretches. There is one singular exception to this, and that's if you have particular muscles that are more chronically tight. So if your hamstrings tend to be very, very tight all the time, I'm saying this from experience.
This one.
It can be very beneficial to take some time and do a couple of static stretches focused on that specific muscle. But that's one of the only
question.
Yeah.
So for the just gonna unmute myself real quick. So for this one, one where you go down and then up. So how far up do you want to go? Do you want to go to like your toes like here, or to like onto like the balls?
Just onto the ball of the foot. So
Oh.
like how you would rise in smooth and standard, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not asking you to do like ballet all the way through your tiptoes. Actually, can very easily go very wrong.
That is true. Okay, good question though. All right, well, before we get too cooled off, let's get into the start of the workshop.
Yes. So,
Here, I'll scroll down for you.
so the first thing we're gonna touch on, and again, we're focusing primarily on what we're doing with our feet and legs in today's workshop. First thing we want to touch on is turnout. So you might have heard of this before, you might have not. If you have heard of this, this is going to be a good refresher for you. So when we're dancing smooth and standard, you tend to have your feet parallel facing the same direction. In rhythm and Latin, however, you always want to have your feet slightly turned out. It's usually turned out at about a 45-degree angle. You don't need to go further than that. You don't have to go to 90 degrees or, God forbid, try and have them completely flat in a single straight line. So just a slight amount of turnout. Biggest thing to note is when you're doing this turnout, you're turning your legs out from your hips. So usually this turnout comes from a little bit of engagement in your glutes specifically. Main reason why I note that is because it's very easy to just turn out from your knee joint. But you don't want to do that because that over time will very easily cause knee injuries. And we definitely want to avoid anything like that happening over time. So the reason why we're always doing this is because in Latin and rhythm, we're usually stopping very, very quickly and need to really control our positioning, our movement, and remain on balance the entire time. And by having our feet slightly turned out, it gives us a wider base to just kind of hold all of our weight and help us maintain that balance a little bit more.
Sorry.
So, in addition to having your feet turned out, a big thing to note is you're also always going to have the majority of your weight on the inside edge of your foot. You don't want to have your feet turned out, but still keep your weight on the outer edge with kind of your arches kind of pointing upwards. You want to be very much on the inside edge of your foot because, again, this is where we're going to have the most amount of total stability. Now, again, note with that, even though your weight is on the inside edge of your foot, doesn't mean you should have the other side of your foot kind of popping off the ground. That's just where your weight is focused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then as we start to actually move, this is going to be helpful too, because you want to make sure that your inside edge of your foot is essentially tracing the ground wherever you move.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I'm taking a step to the side, for example, and then collecting my foot in, you always want to drag your foot on the inside edge.
Yep. And at all times, either the inside edge of your foot itself, or at the very least, the inside edge of your big toe will always be in contact with the ground whenever you're taking a step in rhythm or Latin.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, to say, because it's not like the inside edge of your entire foot. It's mainly just from the ball joint to your big toe, where most of the pressure is.
Yeah, because you're not wanting to just like drag a limp foot when you're collecting.
Yeah, that's something. Okay, so now what I want you guys to do is essentially just get into a position where we can see your feet and just get into a turned out position with your feet together for now.
Can you see ours?
Yeah, I can see you. All right, good. So yeah, most of you are doing the 45-degree angle. Josh, you can get your heels together. That's one other point too. You want your feet to be in a nice V shape. So your heels should be together and your ankles should be like almost touching. Oh yeah, that looks good from everyone. Yeah. All right, nice. Oop. Man, having to like squat down to like look at people is hard. Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted to say on turnout for now, because that's not going to be the primary focus of this workshop, but we thought it was important to just make sure that everyone was on the same page, since this is something that will affect your balance a lot. So it's relevant to the weight transfer section, which we're going to get into a little bit now. All right, so weight transfer in Latin and rhythm is the same for either style. The main concept that we want to talk about today is the concept of going through a split weight position. So many of you have probably heard me talk about this before, whether it's in Latin and rhythm or smooth and standard. The principle is the same. So you don't want to transfer all of your weight right away onto your new foot, because again, that's going to make it much harder to balance, since you're essentially just throwing all of your weight over the foot, and then it's much harder for you to control that movement.
Again, for clarity's sake, primarily for the majority of this workshop, when we're demoing stuff, we're going to be using Latin as our main style for demoing, but pretty much all of the same principles that we're going to be talking about will apply to rhythm as well, and we'll touch on that a little more towards the end of this workshop.
Yeah, so Latin is just a little bit simpler with regard to the leg action, so we're going to start with that, and then we'll touch on the rhythm rumba basic toward the end. So what I mean by moving through a split weight position. So we'll just take a simple side step as an example. So if I'm going to take a step to the side in Latin and rhythm, I'm going to start with this nice collective position that we practiced, So with your heels together, your ankles almost touching, and then I'm going to settle onto my left foot in this case. And then you'll see as I put weight onto this foot, my inside edge of my right toe is going to turn in. So you can see that the ball of my right toe is on the ground, but pretty much no other part of my right foot. And then we're going to slide our right foot out to the side, again, doing that nice tracing action. And then we're going to get into a position where our weight is evenly split between both of our feet. Then what we're going to do is push off of our left foot by extending our ankle. And this will gradually transfer weight onto your right foot. So now you should be in a position where pretty much 100% of your weight is on your right foot and your left foot is pointed out to the side. Again, with that nice pressure on the inside edge of your left foot. And then we can do this again, going back the other way. So now I'm going to transfer weight onto my left foot, landing in a split weight position. So again, my weight is pretty much evenly between my 2 feet here. And then now pushing off of my right ankle to get onto the other foot.
Yeah, and one thing you might notice is that when Cassandra and I are doing this, we actually have our feet fairly far apart. This is something that's easiest to practice when you have your feet purposely far apart, more than you might normally step when you're actually full out dancing. A lot of times when it comes to actual dancing, especially in rhythm and Latin, we tend to emphasize taking small steps. When you're practicing this aspect of technique, though, it's easiest to start by having your feet further apart, because that way it's much harder to cheat the weight transfer without fully extending through to your foot.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so now I'm just going to check my notes quick. All right, so now we are just going to practice this a little bit, and I'm going to demonstrate with you guys, and then Dallas, can you just take a look at the camera and kind of see how people are doing? All right, so again, I'm just going to kind of walk you guys through a few side steps. So we're going to start with our weight on our left foot, moving onto our right foot. We're going to go a little bit faster than we did before. So we're going to land in a split weight position here, and then push off of your left foot, and then do the same thing back the other direction. So split weight position, push off of your right foot. Split weight position, push off of your left foot. Split weight position, push off of your right foot. I'll keep doing that a few more times. Split weight, push off of your left foot. Split weight, push off of your right foot. How's that looking, Dallas?
Looking pretty good overall. Main little things that I'm noticing from a couple people is, for some of you, I'm noticing as you're pushing off of one foot, you're also rotating your hips at the same time. For this right now, you want to try and keep your hips in the same overall orientation. So you're not wanting to let your hips rotate either way right now. We're mainly just focusing on the pushing off action.
Yeah, I would agree. In future workshops, we can talk about how this relates to hip action a little bit more. But that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. One last thing to note, from what I was seeing, I didn't see this in anyone, but a big thing to be cautious about when it comes to dancing Latin in particular is be careful if you have fairly flexible knees and if you're capable of doing what's called hyperextending, where you're going past the normal range of bend in your knees. If you do that too much, it's a very easy way to cause long-term injuries. So when you're straightening, be cautious if you have more flexible joints to not go too far.
Yeah, good points. All right, does anyone have any questions on that so far? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to move on. Okay, sounds good. So the next thing that we want to talk about is taking this concept a little bit further and talking about cucarachas. So,
has anyone heard of cucarachas?
I know some people have heard of cucarachas. Okay. Some people have. All right. So Sorry, I just like forgot what I was going to say. Okay, so we're going to, throughout the next part of this workshop, essentially practice this concept of weight transfer using a couple of different types of steps. So in Latin and rhythm, there's basically 4 different types of steps that you can take at the syllabus level, and even really at novum level with few exceptions. So you can step either forward, you can step to the side, you can step back, or you can just step in place and change weight. So we're going to kind of talk about how all of those work and then apply those to both a Latin rumba basic and a rhythm rumba basic. So we're going to start by talking about cucarachas because that's a good way to talk about both the side step and the together step. So just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, I'm just going to demonstrate what a cucaracha is first. So this is a step in international rumba. It's often used a lot, not necessarily in competition routines, but to practice basics. So this is a step that I have many memories of working on as a bronze and silver level dancer. So we're going to start with our weight on our right foot this time. And then we're going to take a side step onto our left foot, again, passing through the split weight position, pushing off of our right foot to fully transfer weight onto our left foot now. Then we're going to transfer weight back onto our right foot. So passing through split weight, then pushing through our left foot. And then we're going to do a weight change in place. So you're going to drag your left foot in, this nice collective position here. And then you're going to switch weight onto your left foot now. And then we're going to do essentially a mirror image of what we just did. So now we're going to step to the side on our right foot. So again, passing through a split weight position, pushing off through the ankle of our left foot. Then again, split weight position, now pushing off through the ankle of our right foot. And then again, now we'll bring our right foot in and then do this weight change in place. And then you can repeat. So if you do it faster, this is what it looks like.
One little thing to note is with that collected position, when we're collecting our feet before we do this transfer in place, we have this position where one foot is flat, the other one we are just on essentially the ball of our foot. Inside edge of both feet, however, with our ankles together, and from there we transfer and essentially switch which foot is flat and which foot we have the ball of the foot only touching.
Yeah. So I did a video on basically this exact step. I think it was called like foot changes or weight changes or something like that. But basically, how you want this to work, just like Dallas was saying, we'll basically switch which heel is down and which leg is straight. So my right leg is straight here, my left leg is bent, and then my knees are going to come forward. So momentarily I am on 2 toes and with 2 bent knees. So this is the split weight position that you'll be passing through in this case. And then my left heel will lower. And then I'll end in this position with my the ball of my right foot on the ground. So that's kind of a lot. But now we just want to give you guys the opportunity to practice this a little bit. So I think now, could you demonstrate it? And I'll just like watch people. Yeah. So you can just walk through that to whatever speed.
So you can start with your weights. I'm going to start with my weight on my left foot. And then we're going to start side, side, together, side, side, together. So this counts 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, done.
All right, nice. All right, good job. Looks like everyone has a good handle on the step. So the main things that I'm noticing are that some people are not having their turnout maintained when they're taking their steps to the side. So that's just one thing to be conscious of for kind of aesthetic purposes. So some people have their feet only like very slightly turned out or facing forward. So you want to still make sure that your feet are just as turned out when they're apart as they are when they're together. So they'll still have kind of that 45-degree angle or so, if not actually a little bit more.
Yeah. In side steps in particular, this turn actually has a very functional purpose, because if your feet are kind of more flat or parallel to one another, it actually makes pushing off of one of them all the way through your ankle a bit more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So by having our feet already turned out, it should actually make that full extension easier and require a little bit less pushing into our foot. If your feet are parallel, it's actually going to take a lot more effort because you're having to activate much more muscles all at once to get that full extension.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then the other point that I had was just related to your leg action more than anything. In general, I thought the weight transfer aspect of this was good, but I think there's some other things that we could work on too. So most people, when they were doing this, with the main exception of Michael, I remember seeing, so good job, had their knees just kind of slightly bent the whole time. So in cucarachas, you actually will never bend your legs except for when you're collecting, if you're doing it like Latin, because this is a Latin step. So step to the side, even passing through the split weight position, both of my legs are going to be completely straight. And then the only thing that changes is just pushing through that ankle.
Yep. Yeah, so it's for this reason that it's important to push off all the way through your ankle, because if you're doing this properly, that's the only part of your leg that you can actually push off of. If your legs are straight, you can't push through anything other than your ankles.
Exactly. All right. So does anyone have any questions on that before we talk about forward and back steps? All right, give me a thumbs up if you're good to go. 2 thumbs up. Lots of thumbs up. All right, great. So now we'll go ahead and talk about the 2 other types of steps that you can do in Latin rhythm, which are forward and back steps. All right, do you want me to talk about it?
You can start.
Okay, sure. So the same principles of weight transfer apply here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of break down how you do a forward step and how you do a back step. So we'll start with a forward step. So I'm going to start again in this nice collected position. Start with my weight on my left foot, and I'm going to start to send my body weight forward a little bit, and then land in a split weight position on my right foot here. So again, at this point, both of my knees will be straight because it's Latin, and both my feet will still be turned out. So my left foot will be pointing kind of off in this direction, and my right foot will be pointing off in this direction toward Dallas.
Yeah. If one of us was to turn towards the camera, what you might see is that this causes an illusion that our feet or our legs are sort of bending inwards. However, it's important to note that that is an illusion primarily. You are trying to keep your legs very close together. You don't want your legs to be spread out at all when you're taking these steps forward, but you also don't want to actively cross one leg in front of the other. The appearance of our legs crossing comes entirely from maintaining that turnout that we touched on a lot earlier.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so back to our split weight position. So again, our weight is evenly split between our 2 feet, and at this point, both of our heels should be on the ground. So now, just like we did with the side steps, we're going to transfer our weight onto our front foot by pushing through the ankle of our back foot and really engaging your calf. So I'm going to push through my left ankle until my weight is fully over, so kind of a small step, until my weight is fully over my right foot now. So at this point, you you should be, what am I trying to say? Your weight should be fully on your right foot, and your left toe should be really the only thing contacting the floor. Then, to go into our next step, we're going to collect this left foot in, and then we're going to do the same thing. So we'll do this one more time. So start by kind of sending your weight forward a little bit. Then we're going to land in a split weight position on our left foot, and then push through the toe of our right foot. And then we'll collect. And then you can keep doing that. So one thing to note here is that when we're doing the collecting, that's not something that we're going to like hold for a long period of time. It's just something that we want to kind of emphasize, because you always want to pass through that position when you're moving. So if I do these a little bit faster, looks more like this, as opposed to stepping and then collecting and waiting and then stepping. So while you're practicing it now, I think it's good to practice holding the collected position a little bit, but just know that ultimately you want to kind of smooth that out. Yep. All right, cool. And then we'll talk about back steps a little bit, and then we'll give you guys another opportunity to practice these in some more detail. Do you want to talk about the back steps, or should I?
I can talk about back steps.
All right, sounds good.
So when we're taking back steps, a lot of the stuff that we did for stepping forward is going to seem familiar, or very much just doing things in kind of an opposite order. So we'll start once again with our feet in this nice collected position. And the first thing you want to do is you're going to be extending your foot backwards, and then you're hitting this split weight position. Now, a big thing to note is when you're stepping backwards, unlike when you're stepping forwards, when stepping backwards, you'll have a little bit more of a forward poise. The reason for this is if we're trying to maintain our perfectly straight back posture, it's very easy to get off balance and start to just timber backwards. So maintain that bit of forward poise is very important for keeping on balance.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, it's also important for making sure that you don't transfer weight onto your back foot too quickly.
Also that. So yeah, as we're stepping and extending our left foot backwards, we're keeping this forward poise. Once we hit this split weight position, that's when we're going to push through all the way on our front foot. So pushing all the way through the ankle to get that full, complete weight transfer. Then you would collect. You can repeat this with another step backwards, repeating that same exact process. So extending the leg back, getting into the split weight position, and then pushing off of that leg the rest of the way.
All right, so now what we're gonna go ahead and do is just have you guys practice this a little bit to your own timing. So just do any combination of forward and back steps that you want, and that can mostly stay within the camera. So you can just do like 2 or 3 forward steps and then switch to doing some backward steps. And we're just gonna do this for a minute or two so Dallas and I can see more closely what you guys are doing. Just let them go. Yeah, for now, we'll do the music later.
All right, so it's looking pretty good from everybody. A couple pieces of feedback that we have. first up, for your steps forward, overall looking very, very good. One of the main things that I was noticing for your steps forward is that a couple of you were releasing your back heel off the ground a bit too early. So what I mean by that is many of you, as you were taking that step forward, when you got into the split weight position, rather than having both feet fully on the ground, you'd often hit that split weight position and your back heel would pop off the ground. Usually it was just a little bit, but it was still there. So really try and drill into yourself hitting that split weight position with both feet flat, and then push off and release that back heel.
Yeah, and then similarly, for the backward steps, we noticed kind of two things. So we noticed essentially the same thing that Dallas just mentioned for the forward steps, which is just lifting your heel off the ground a little bit too early. So in this case, what that would look like is transferring weight back and then immediately kind of pointing through the front foot. So that's going to cause you to transfer your weight too quickly. So again, you really want to make sure that you step and then momentarily pass through this position where both of your heels are on the ground. And then the only thing that will help you transfer your weight to your back foot is by pushing through the toe. You don't want to rely on momentum to get you there. And then the other thing is more related to your leg action as well. So a lot of people, when you guys were taking steps backward, would step onto a bent leg. So you can do that in rhythm, but not Latin.
Yep, so good rhythm technique. Good rhythm technique.
Yes, we will get to rhythm in a second.
Yep.
But for now, make sure that you transfer weight onto a straight leg. And then even if you are doing rhythm, you still want to make sure that you straighten your leg eventually. So for example, if I were to do this with rhythm technique, I would step onto the ball of my back foot and then straighten my knee as I transfer weight, instead of just having my knee kind of bent the whole time.
Yep. One last thing to note is, specifically for forward and backward steps, you can actually have these steps be a little bit smaller, especially compared to what we were doing for steps to the side. And it's mainly because it's much easier to push off or you can have a much wider stance when your legs are just going out to the side versus going front and back. It's a lot harder to get your legs very far apart this way without just losing control completely. So you can have these forward and back steps be a little bit smaller so you can really focus on getting that split weight position and transferring through it.
All right, does anyone have any questions on that so far? We good? Okay, looks like we good. All right, so now, stay down here actually. So for the last little bit of class, what we're gonna do is apply these principles to both a Latin rumba basic and a rhythm rumba basic. So we're gonna start with the Latin one, since Latin is what we've been practicing so far, and then we'll talk a little bit more in detail how this works with rhythm. So for the Latin rumba basic, go ahead and talk about this. So again, the Latin rumba basic is going to be a combination of a lot of the different types of steps that we've already kind of done in isolation. So we're gonna have side steps, we're gonna have forward steps, and we're gonna have back steps. There are no together steps, I guess, in the Latin rumba basic, but there are some in rhythm. So we'll talk about those more when we get around to that. So for the Latin rumba basic, we're going to use essentially the same technique that we've been talking about so far. So we're going to start with our weight on our left foot, with our right foot nicely collected and the ball of our right foot on the ground. We're going to start with a side step. So stepping to the side on 4, and then transferring weight onto our right foot, really pushing through on 1. And then we're going to do a forward step, but this step is going to be a little bit different because it is what's called a checked position. So a checked position is a position that's used to rapidly redirect your momentum. And it's a little bit different than a typical forward step because as we transfer weight forward here, we're going to land in this split weight position first, but then our weight is still going to kind of stay split between our feet the whole time instead of transferring weight completely to our front foot and then completely back. So this will help your actions to be a little bit more quick.
Note that this check position only happens when you're stepping forward. doesn't happen when you're stepping backwards.
Yes. So just to talk about the check position a little bit more first. So we step to the side 4-1, and then we're going to step forward on our left foot on 2. We're going to get into this split weight position here. And then what we're going to do is basically rise up onto the toe of our right foot and then collect our right knee to our left knee. So what that's going to look like is this. So it's this type of action instead of that type of action. And then that's going to cause us to be able to more easily step backward. All right, so we'll go through that again. So we're going to start with the step to the side, and then now I'm going to try to go through the whole basic this time. So we're going to step to the side on 4-1. Then we're going to do our forward check on 2. Transfer back 3. Collect our feet here. And then we're going to go the other direction on 4-1. Collect our feet here on and then we're going to step backwards. So we're going to have 2, 3, collect our feet again, and then 4-1. So you can see that in between any of the side steps and either the forward or back steps, I'm going to be collecting my feet here. So you basically want to go in a, you always want your feet to be traveling at 90-degree angles from each other in this. So we're going to have the side step going to the side, forward step going directly forward and back, and then going to the side again, and then directly back and then forward. All right. So now I'm going to try playing some music on my laptop. Dallas and I tested this out, and the sound quality seemed pretty good. So we'll see how it goes for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It's just going to be Spotify. Not very exciting.
Most exciting.
Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just play a random Latin rumba song and then have you guys just practice a Latin rumba basic for a minute or two, and then Dallas and I will talk about what we see. So we're going to Okay, can you guys hear it? What does the chat say?
Yes.
Okay. All right, just want to make sure because no one was starting. All right, we're going to play it again. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop my screen share and we'll talk a little bit. Okay, Dallas, you want to start with what you had to say?
Yes. So I just have a very brief
heck?
note. We're getting sunlight.
That's weird. Okay. There's still glare. A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. All right.
So yeah,
A little bit dark, but
I was saying, I just have a very quick note regarding check position. When most of you guys were doing check position, one of the main things I noticed is oftentimes you would do a good job of keeping your legs at a split weight position, and also all of you did a correct job of bending your back knee. The main thing I noticed, and this is a very small thing, but it can make a big impact on how easy it is to transfer your weight back, is when your back leg would bend, you would essentially pass your knees. So what you want to try and aim for instead is when you bend your back leg, you're essentially trying to tuck your kneecap into the back of your other knee. Essentially, that's acting as a stop, so you physically cannot go any further than that. It stops your weight from going any further forward, and thus it makes it much easier than just push your weight back. Yeah, that's looking good from everyone.
oh yeah.
As I said, very, very small thing, but can have a surprisingly big impact.
Both on how it looks and how it functions, for sure. All right, so I think for the sake of time, this workshop's gonna run a little bit over time because we still want to talk about the rhythm rumba basic for a bit. So we'll go ahead and talk about that now. Angle my laptop down a little. Okay, so now you get like 5 minutes of us doing rhythm. Sorry, this is mostly Latin focused, but all these concepts are applicable in either style. They're just very slight nuances that are different. So for rhythm, for the rhythm rumba basic, we're actually going to use all 4 of the types of steps that we covered today. So we got side step, forward step, backward step, and together. So the main difference between Latin and rhythm, most of you have probably heard me say this before, but it's related to your leg action. So if I were to do a side step, like I would in Latin, which we've been practicing for the last like 50 minutes or so, I'm gonna step onto a straight leg and then push off a straight leg as well. Versus if I was dancing this with rhythm technique, what you'll actually do is step onto a bent leg. So here, my right leg is bent, but notably, my left leg is still straight. So in rhythm, I think a common misconception is for people to just kind of have 2 slightly bent knees the whole time. You want to be really conscious of which leg is bent and which leg is straight. So the leg that you're stepping onto is going to be bent as you land in this split weight position here. But then as you finish transferring weight onto your right foot, in this case, pushing off of your left foot, that leg is going to straighten. So it's actually slightly more complicated than Latin because now you have to not only deal with pushing off of this leg, but also straightening your standing leg at the same time. Okay. So we'll just talk briefly about how this applies to the forward and back steps as well. So let's say, let's start with everyone on their left foot. We're going to start backward on our right foot on slow. So when we take a step backwards, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but in this case, you will actually transfer weight onto a bent leg. And because you're on a bent leg, your split weight position is actually going to look kind of similar to a check position because it's kind of impossible for you to have a bent leg, but also put your heel down at the same time. So in rhythm, this is going to be your split weight position when you're going backward. Then you're going to, again, push off of your left leg, now straightening your right leg. So that's on slow. And then we're going to take our step inside on quick. Again, hitting this nice bent left leg, and then changing in place, quick. Basically with more or less the same technique that we were practicing earlier for Latin. The foot changes in place are pretty much the same for either style. And then for the forward step, we go this way a little bit. We are going to transfer weight onto a bent leg. So starting to send our weight forward a little bit, and then we're going to land onto a bent left leg here. That's not bad. But this is the position that you want to land in. And then as you push off of your right leg, that's gonna straighten. And then we'll do the side step again this way. Quick, quick. So if I do this just a little bit faster, so you guys can more clearly see the technique, I'm just gonna do this like once or twice. So we're gonna have slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick. Do you have something to add, Dales?
Main thing I just had to add was in terms of the exact timing for when your leg is go straighten, or when the leg you're stepping onto is straightening. It's one of the last things to happen, and it really happens once you've fully finished your weight transfer. So, for example, taking a step forward, as we're pushing off, our leg will begin to straighten, but doesn't reach full extension until we've fully transferred our weight. So it's very easy to have that leg straighten a bit abruptly when you're trying to transfer weight, but it hits maximum extension once your weight is fully over that leg.
Yeah, very, very shortly after. It's like, I think of it as pretty much simultaneous. Okay. Wow, it's so dark in here now. Okay, so to close out this workshop, what I'm going to go ahead and do is now play a rhythm rumba song and have you guys practice that for a minute or two, and then we'll get feedback and wrap up. And Trang, I saw your comment earlier, and you're lucky because we can't really tell who's on time and who's not, because I think there's like a 2-beat delay. So we can't really tell. Do whatever timing your heart desires. All right, I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay. Oh, this is the rhythm one that I wanted. I like this. I like this song. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and share a little bit more feedback now. All right. So good job, everyone. Especially because, no, it's okay. I could tell that everyone is trying to incorporate everything, and this is a lot to throw at you and expect you to dance to music in a few minutes. But we just wanted to give you a little taste of it. Now I forgot what I was gonna say. Okay. Yes. All right. So the main comment that I have for everyone is I would like everyone to hold the first beat of the slow a little bit longer. So what I mean by this is, I'll go to the side again. So let's say I'm gonna step backward. So what I'm kind of seeing from everyone right now is like hitting a split weight position, but then getting out of it really quickly. So it's kind of slow. And then just holding here and waiting to go to the side versus hitting a split weight position and then, what am I trying to say? Actually, yeah, so what I'm gonna do is actually just play the music again because this is a little bit easier to see. So I'm gonna do it the incorrect way first, and then I'm gonna do it the correct way. Oh shoot. Wait, I gotta share my screen again. Here we go. And this is much more complicated to play music. All right, so number 1 is the wrong way, number 2 is the correct way. Okay, so could anyone tell what the difference was between those two? Like, was it visible at all, even if you couldn't really say what it is? Okay, good.
It was really hard to see because when you share your screen, to me, the picture of you went to a small square in the corner, and I was looking at your Spotify thing instead.
Yeah, I need to see if we can figure out a way around that because it's hard for me to like look at you guys too. I'm like,
yeah, try and find a way to share audio without having to share screen.
All right. Yeah, but basically what I was getting at was trying to hold the split weight position for longer.
Yeah, the goal of working on this idea of weight transfer is so that you can extend the slows out in your steps. So that way you're not immediately transferring weight, but you can extend that over a longer period of time.
Yeah, and ultimately it'll make your dancing look a lot more exciting and dynamic because there'll be much more of a contrast between the quick movements and the slow ones. So that's what this will ultimately help you move toward. So I think that's it for the workshop.
Yeah.
That's about all we had planned.
Yeah.
So,
only last note regarding the dance specifically is if this is the end of your dance practice, then it's always good whenever you're finishing practice to take some time to cool off. So
yes.
Try not to sit down immediately, even though I know multiple of us.
Even though I'm doing that right now.
Even though we're doing that primarily for talking, it's best if your heart rate is a little more elevated to stay standing while that returns back to normal. It's also a really good time to do any more static stretches to help avoid muscle soreness the following day or two.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys all for coming. If you want to leave, you're free to leave. If you want to share any of your thoughts, we can go ahead and talk about those now briefly. Oh yeah, I'll stop the recording.